So good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. Very excited about today's show. We are packed with some really great, smart people, and they're going to talk about their companies. And it's really a part of our 4-day big data conference that we're doing virtually. And we're pretty excited to try to pack in and share with the world, our Pittsburgh world, all the people who are doing incredible things in our partnerships with those folks across the border, which is Canada. So in a moment, before we start, I just want to set the table like I always do. And I want to thank Huntington Bank for the work that they've done in being a partner with us for over a year in doing so many different things around storytelling, connecting people, and the like. We're thrilled with them, and hopefully they continue to be thrilled with us. They're great partners in our region and community. So today, as I mentioned, that we have a special session of business as usual because we're being joined with participants from this week's Beyond Big Data. So AI Machine Learning Summit is our theme this year. And if you haven't registered, there's still time to sign up for day 4 of the program. And the summit kicks off at 9 a.m. and remains free to all member companies of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. So the summit would not have been a summit without these sponsors. And these sponsors are, and I just want to shout out to them because it's CGI, they were presenting sponsor. Keynote sponsor is Risk Focus, Inc. Panel sponsors were Click, and supporting sponsors were Cloudera, DQE Communications, ACNC Jetstore, Plus, and Snowflake. And lastly, but not least, our dear friend and colleague, the Consulate General of Canada. We're pleased to be joined by Ryan Wall today from the Consulate General's office. And for the past 2 years, we have just been, so happy to partner with the Canadian government to host our inbound delegation of Canadian AI companies. And we've just been blown away by the amount of talent that is up in Canada and the opportunities for us to continue to partner and hopefully grow our businesses. So we're really thrilled. We want to connect them to the Pittsburgh ecosystem. And today we're just going to tease you with a little bit from each of them. So the delegation actually visits us virtually. So we are, wish we could hug them all. We've had some fun in the pre-warm-up and getting to know them. And we know that the work that they're doing is really something that we can leverage bidirectionally. So we have, and I'm just going to reach out and I'm going to say who they are, and then one by one, they are going to talk about themselves. So we have Ken Sills, co-founder and CTO of a company called Preteckt, and we have Tenille Houston's Chief Marketing Officer of SmartCone Technologies, Karim Ali, CEO of Invision. I said that right. And then Parker Lachance, who's Sales Marketing Manager at TRAINFO. So as I do each and every day, we just spend a few minutes getting to know each of our guests and just talking about, what about their companies, how they're holding up. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms by the time we get through all of that. So we're going to start with Ken Sills. And we're going to, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. Ken, how are you doing? And tell us about your company.
Hi, Audrey. I'm doing quite well. Thanks for asking, and very, very pleased to be here. So thanks for having me. But the company's name is Preteckt, predictive protection. So, but Preteckt is it's no worries. Strangely, a lot of people have a hard time with the name, but you make these decisions many years ago and then you stick with them. So we are Preteckt. Preteckt is a transportation technology startup that delivers the latest advances in cloud-based machine learning to connected cars and trucks. We are primarily focused on heavier duty vehicles, so buses and trucks. We do work with many at this point, municipal transit agencies, bus transit agencies, such as the New York City MTA. But we also work with trucking companies to help optimize their maintenance. Our software analyzes sensors that are already existing on the vehicles and contextualize it so that we can deliver very high precision repair plans, which is to say, if you've ever had your car have an issue and you bring it into the shop and they're like, I don't see anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it right now. We kind of solve that problem plus. So we're taking data while the vehicle is out on the road, while it's in context. So as it's being utilized. And what that really allows us to do is while it's being driven, we're diagnosing it. And this allows us, so we have machine learning that helps optimize the use of human experts, who we also have on our staff, who get anomalies sent to them and have just the right data put in front of them so that they can very quickly and efficiently make a very high precision repair plan that has a very low rate of false positives. So that's kind of the thing that we are known for, is very, very low rate of false positives. When we issue a repair plan, it's correct.
That's great. So good. Great to see you. Great to hear from you. And I'm going to jump over to Tenille Houston and welcome her. How are you? How are you holding up? And I meant to even say that to Ken. Where are you dialing in from?
You want to hop back? I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Okay, great. Thanks. So Tenille, welcome and thank you for joining us. And just how are you holding up through all of this? And tell us about your company.
Well, thanks so much. I am just a stone's throw away from Ken, about 4 hours here in the capital in Ottawa. Holding up well. It's a rainy day today, but spring is upon us and the snow is melting, so that's always a good sign. A little bit about the company that I'm with is SmartCone Technologies. The reason why we're a part of this conference is we use AI in a lot of the things that we do. We're a unique data sensory company that actually commercializes new IoT technologies that are powered by a wide array of sensors, everything from camera, LiDAR, radar, to artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we basically do all of the processing of these sensors to include the AI on the device itself, on the edge. So we can offer real-time information, data acquisition and aggregation, as well as real-time alerting to create a safer area wherever we may be. And some of those use cases, because that's very wide ranging, we do everything from our hardware and software can secure dangerous work sites. You can set up alerts, and if people enter, you can get automatically, notified to that. You can also put a similar set of sensors up in an intersection, and you can help make a safer area for cyclists that are traveling down a bike lane, or intelligent crosswalks near school zones. We've also used the same sets of sensors for return to work solutions, asset tracking and logistics, and the list goes on and on. So we really heavily rely on our ecosystem of hardware and software to solve many, many use cases.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate that. And so now I'm going to go to Karim Ali. How are you? And welcome. And tell us where you're calling in from.
Hi, so I'm calling in from Toronto. Hi, everyone. A little bit about Invision AI. So we're really an artificial intelligence company focused very much on building solutions, software that can analyze visual data. So cameras, radar, and LiDAR. Two big things that differentiate us is that, one of the things about, artificial intelligence is that it requires a lot of computational power. So people typically, put that processing power on the cloud. So we really believe, for many reasons, privacy being one of them, cost effectiveness being another, that the processing needs to happen either on the edge device or close to the edge device. So that's one thing that differentiates us as well. Another thing that we really do is we move away from just kind of cameras and radar and LiDAR and analyzing just the data, but bringing it into the real world. So for example, if we have a camera pointed somewhere at an intersection, we don't just detect a vehicle or a person, we also geolocate them. We'll give you their GPS coordinates, we'll tell you where they're going. So we have all of this contextual data that we have, which allows us to do things like measure distances between objects. If a car is moving at 130 kilometers per hour, we can tell you that. We can tell you how close two people are to each other. Big products that we're deploying, one is vehicle occupancy detection. So we have camera systems that can tell you how many people are inside cars, either on the highway or on a city street. So applications there are about automating priority lanes. Another product line that we have is crowd view. So it's all about, detecting people, tracking people in public spaces, all done in a privacy preserving way. And just really understanding the use of space, being able to count people very accurately from across multiple cameras. So we could deploy 100 cameras and we can tell you this person has moved from camera 1 to 53 to 64. So really get an accurate idea of how the space is utilized. Is there physical distancing? Are there issues in your space that you can address? And I don't want to take up too much time. The last product we have is also on autonomous rail systems. So this is kind of forward collision warning for trains, typically urban like trams and urban rail.
That's great. You're busy. That's wonderful. Thank you. And so now I'm going over to Parker Lachance. Hi, Parker. How are you? Hope you're holding up okay. And you are calling in from where?
I'm calling in from Winnipeg. Yeah. It's a little colder than Toronto, but today, we're lucky and it's quite nice out. And I think we actually got spring early for once. So there's still some ice fishing happening, but otherwise it's not too bad.
That's great. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, so we're TRAINFO. We specialize almost exclusively in improving mobility and safety on the roads surrounding rail crossings. And so what we do basically differently than anybody else is we use machine learning to understand the types of movements that trains are engaging in, which can help us predict when, where, and for how long a rail crossing will be blocked. And we also use machine learning to model the recovery of the roads after that blockage has cleared to help us understand the impacts to traffic in the area. And we've seen that, about 60% of the traffic impacts actually happen after the gates are up. So modeling that out and being able to predict how those delays are going to happen is very important. Typically what we do is we integrate that predictive rail crossing blockage and delay information into a number of systems. Mm-hmm. And so we can integrate it into DMS boards on roadside signs to reroute motorists and allow them to choose the best and most efficient route to get to their destination. We have an app that basically does the same thing. It tells them the delay or the blockages that they're about to encounter and allows them to reroute. We can integrate this information into signals. And so what we've found is that often signal timing plans maybe are one size fits all for each blockage. But many cities may have a 20-minute blockage in the middle of the day one day and a 2-minute blockage the next day. And the signals need to be adjusted in a way specific to that blockage. And so we can predict, how many vehicles on the road, how they'll recover, and the length of that blockage, and send that all over to an ATMS. And then the ATMS can react accordingly. The intention of all of these systems is to help reduce unsafe behavior. So a lot of the times people don't know how long they're about to be blocked for. They may try and beat that train, which can lead to a collision. They may try and U-turn onto the boulevard or get around it, that type of thing. I've been in the car with people where they've said, I've had a 20-minute train here before. I can't afford a 20-minute blockage right now, and it's too late for me to do anything else. I'm going to try and beat this train. That's oh, no way. Right? But it happens more often than you think. And in cities that have, rail crossing blockages that can range in time from 2 minutes to 20 or 30 minutes, sometimes hours in certain cities, it can basically train people to behave unsafely. And so we kind of undo that training by providing them the information that they need in order to reroute and by, better managing that queue of vehicles once that collision is cleared. And the last thing that we do with that information, and probably the most impactful thing that we've seen so far, is we actually integrate it with computer-aided dispatch software for emergency responders. So we've been working with the Federal Railroad Administration in the US to quantify the impacts to emergency responders that blocked rail crossings have, the risk that they're exposed to, and the opportunities to mitigate that risk should they have predictive information. And what we found is that, in a number of cities that we surveyed, emergency responders were being blocked every day and impacted every day by several minutes. And, this can have a significant impact on resource allocation, on, their ability to respond to a call and those types of things. And so we give them that predictive information so that they can choose the correct unit and the correct route in order to most effectively respond to a call.
Okay, well, thanks. I went on mute for 1 second because for some reason, they are definitely mowing the lawn here. Oh, there you go. So here is, okay, Jonathan, you want to grab this question from Julia.
Issue the conversation rolling as Audrey mutes herself. We actually, if we can start now really fast, we have Julia Merkley from the Business Times here wants to know, are any of you operating in Pittsburgh in any capacity, or do you have plans to possibly expand into Pittsburgh? Anyone can jump in if they so like.
I would say quick answer is no. Right now, we don't have any operations in Pittsburgh, but I know specifically when it comes to safer roads, there's something that we're trying to break into the market there because there's a lot of bike lanes and a lot of cycling happening. And I think the specific cyclist protection warning system would be great. So it's exciting to be a part of this call and hopefully make some connections to enter into market.
Absolutely. I love your technology as a cyclist myself, and think that's wonderful to see technology, making the sport safer and commuters safer and so forth. Great stuff all the way around. Anybody else on the call that's thinking about Pittsburgh would have any interest in learning more and connecting up as far as that goes?
So at Preteckt, we're very interested. There's a lot of trucking that happens in that area. So those are companies that we're starting to have discussions with. But similarly, your municipal transit system is on our to-do list.
Very cool. No, that's excellent. Actually, we've got a great industry growing here with a number of tech companies that are making trucking more efficient and safe and so forth. So obviously there'd be a great play for you here as well too. So,
exactly.
Stuff. Absolutely. And how about Karim? How about you?
No, definitely. I mean, it's definitely on something that's on our radar. Obviously, you also have a great tech hub there as well, which we might, availability of talent basically is also a consideration for us as well. But definitely, our products from vehicle occupancy detection, to crowd view can all be applied, and including our rail products as well. They can all be applied in Pittsburgh as a market for us.
So we're so excited to do this today because these are such all new opportunities for both you and for our companies as well too. Very cool stuff.
So I'm going to have a quick question in between dog barking here. How has COVID impacted international business for you? And anyone can start.
I guess I'll start because I was talking last. So yeah, we've had it's overall, like we fared very well as a company. We've essentially, managed to double our revenues through COVID. We've definitely had like impacted projects and delayed projects. So that has happened. We have big projects that were really put on hold for a long time as people adjusted, but this is now picking up again. But it's also creating new opportunities for us. It's increased interest in the ability to monitor kind of people and survey public spaces. So that's created in new opportunities for us as well. That would be my answer to that. So
yeah, I think similarly. So we've had some of the goods and the bads. So for the SmartCone company as a whole, our initial mission is an IoT ecosystem that can cross multiple markets, and that's always developing new technology. So we've been able to expand with the thermal cameras that we initially were offering more so in a surveillance setting into a, temperature, as well as acquiring some AI to actually detect COVID and create a subsidiary called SymptoPass, where we're focusing on taking AI with cough detection analysis and surveys and building into that market, which has been, on the one hand, very beneficial and pushing revenue forward. And then on the other hand, like our subsidiary that focuses on the cycling safety, which is Auto Guardian by SmartCone, and those technologies within a municipality, we have come into some struggles, and that we had some deals cross country, and it's been hard to, go over and be on site for setup, as well as we're also in the autonomous vehicle space, and we have some really exciting projects with some key channel partners. For instance, Local Motors is one of our channel partners in the US. So we have a project that's needing to be deployed for autonomous vehicle, and we provide safety infrastructure surrounding the autonomous vehicle using AI and sensors for that. And of course, we're running into issues on, if we bring bring over the border? Will we be stuck with additional quarantine? So I would definitely say, like I said, while some of the opportunities have presented itself and we've been able to spin off new subsidiaries and capitalize new technology, some of our other core technology has come into definitely some issues and some holds, as Karen was mentioning. Pros and cons.
And so what about jumping to this question? Can you talk about Canadian companies talking about the work that they're doing in the US and with any industry?
I can start again. So I'll add, maybe just also kind of building up on the other last question and moving to this one. Another big challenge is we've been establishing new partnerships, including with US companies. For example, Raytheon is a partnership that we've established at this point. And it's been very challenging to do it without ever meeting people in person. So just that kind of building trust is really, really hard over Zoom or Teams or whatever. And it can quickly lead to, you know, little misunderstandings, which would be easily resolved otherwise. In terms of the work that we've continued with the US, we had a big project with Transurban, close to Washington, DC, and that was for our vehicle occupancy detection. And again, that's one of the projects that was delayed, but we, you know, as a company, we did manage to get approvals to be able, you know, to be considered an essential business and be able to cross the border back and forth. So we were able to deliver that project. So our collaborations with the US are increasing, actually. They're continuing and increasing.
That's great. What about Ken or Parker?
I'll take this. We have offices both in the US and in Canada. We've been fully remote since 2015, just as it was the best way for us to be able to source talent from both countries. We only have talent in Canada and the US, but we have talent all across both of those countries. And it's allowed us to grow. So thankfully, like the switch over to COVID internally wasn't such a big deal, but it does now mean that when we're dealing with customers in either country, we typically will have someone from the US service the person or the customer that's in the US. Companies that we are working with in the US, we're working with one of the top one or two, depending on how you measure, OEM in the trucking space, so manufacturers of heavy duty trucks. We're working with one of the top three, I'll say, tire manufacturers in the world, which is based in the USA. We're working with many municipal transit fleets across the USA and trucking companies. So yeah, we have a fair number of customers in the US that we are very excited to be working with. And we're just starting up it's called the SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research Grant, with the US Army. So they're going to start using or testing out, I should say, our predictive diagnostics for their logistics, their transportation vehicles.
Fantastic stuff. We've got some great questions coming in from the crowd. I love seeing the crowd engagement on these things. So let's start with Scott Mwini. He wants to know, what impact will 5G have on any of your AI solutions?
5G reduces latency and makes everything better. So there's definitely not a downside other than I think the rate at which people think adoption is happening versus in reality what is being adopted, right? So great for those cities that are cutting edge and have large scale deployment. But I definitely think it's very interesting to see, you know, and to be 5G ready and what that means. But I think it can do nothing but good things, especially for myself. And I think Karim also mentioned he does edge processing. You know, when you have edge processing, yeah, the better connectivity, the better, of course.
Absolutely. How built out is the 5G network in Canada right now compared to the United States? I'm just curious.
I think it's all in early stages. So we're actually involved within the 5G network, actually. So we have the product that I described that does, that understands, three-dimensional situational awareness and is able to geolocate people and vehicles. That's actually being looked at by 5G operators because they have an interest of building a digital twin of let's say, the area that's served by the 5G station. And the reason they want to build this digital twin is to be able to better manage resources, bandwidth, power, and essentially increase quality of service. So that's something that we're involved with some operators here. So we're a bit familiar with it. It's early stages. For example, millimeter wave deployments are pretty much still in the lab setting right now. But you know, it's starting. But definitely, you know, if you look at the full promise of 5G and where we are now, we're maybe at 10%, 10, 20%, and I think it's the same worldwide.
Absolutely, great stuff. There's actually a next question kind of touches on a little bit of what Ken was talking about with the remote workforce and so forth. This is from Justin S. in our chat here. He wants to know, with regards to recruitment, are your companies facing any challenges finding workers with necessary skills in such cutting edge fields? And I'm assuming
I'm happy to start off on this one. We have some very specialized workers in that we do a very specialized piece of machine learning, which is called human-in-the-loop machine learning, which means that we have a proprietary whole back-end database structure to support time series ingestion. And this means that we have to have experts in that type of database. We have to have data scientists who are not just excellent at physics and computer engineering, but on top of that have to understand the trucks that they're working on and the buses, how the mechanics of that work. And then we hire some of the best expert mechanics in the USA and Canada to train our networks, to teach that how get their brain codified into our computer. These are really hard people to find, but what we have decided, we don't have a hard time finding it, because what we have decided is to focus on getting great people who are extremely fast at learning and are very good at teaching. And so our culture is built around hiring people and having them accelerate. Because those people don't exist, we made a conscious decision years ago that everyone that we're hiring based on how quickly they can get from where they are to where we need them to be, as opposed to coming in with that set of knowledge already. So we built a whole culture, a whole team that are really good at accelerating each other. So we've had no real problem in sourcing great people. It's more of a cultural mindset that you have to get through.
Makes a lot of sense. We've got time for one more question, and then we're going to go into our breakout rooms. I'll give you more details on that in a second. But the last question from the chat coming in here is, so what is the difference in your approach to AI as opposed to how like Tesla is approaching AI? Or are we all approaching it the same way? I don't know.
As I mentioned,
I think everybody has different approaches just based on use case per se. You know, it's kind of a broad question to get into on a that's like a whole panel, right? Like that's a great question.
Exactly.
I think you have to still try to break into your use cases and what you are looking to accomplish and how it best relates to like AI and the work that you're doing. Because there are little caveats, like same thing, like I process on the edge. So the way that I approach AI has to be, it's much different than companies that just stream their data and process their AI, you know, after the fact and give reporting down the road. You know, they've got plenty of time and they can bring all that processing in-house. So we have to look at it a different way, just from that regard.
And it's all also about availability of compute power. Like Tesla is also an edge AI processing, but they have 400 watts, NVIDIA and Drive GPUs that they're using in there. So that's not something that you could deploy on a field sensor. So like it's really like we can talk about that for like an hour.
If only we could.
but yeah, I think it has to do with the use case, as Tenille was saying, and also the availability of like what power do you have available. So what are you trying to do, and what do you have available?
It's great stuff all the way around. Like I just love this conversation. And so we're going to start with some breakout rooms. We got some information around this. So each of our guests here has agreed to remain available for about 15 minutes in their own breakout room after the program. If anyone on the call is interested in participating with any of these companies where you can offer help in making connections to a potential customer, please drop in and visit. For those of you who have the latest version of Zoom, you're going to see the cool breakout rooms button at the bottom there. You can click on that and you'll see 4 companies in their respective rooms. You'll also see a number to the right of their name. If you hover over that number, the word join will appear. Click that and it will take you right into the breakout room. You can leave that at any time and you can join another breakout room as you want. So you can hop around a little bit. And for those of you who may be using an older version of Zoom, not to worry at all. Simply go into the chat section of this call and type the name of the company that you'd like to visit. And Taylor from our team will put you in that room. We have concierge service here at the Tech Council, that's for sure. So please be patient. If you're using the chat, you put in the room, we're going to get to you. It might take a few seconds. And thank you for joining us. I know I'm going to be hanging out with Tenille because I cannot wait to learn more about their technology when it helps cycle us out. So everyone have some fun. Let's make some connections and give these folks a big Pittsburgh welcome, because I think there's great opportunity here. That's for sure.
Great.